Maria, you're having crazy effect on me. What are you doing?
I love what I do, and I do what I love, Richard.
Awesome. Hi, and welcome to MLM for CEOs. Today, I interview a person called Meriano. She is a mother, a wife, got 3 beautiful children, and she's also an incredible businesswoman. Over the last 41 years, she's been involved with Tupperware, and she's managed to build a massive team of over 50,000 people and has generated over $500 million in sales. She is somebody genuinely to listen to, and I was absolutely in awe as I spoke to her. This is a very long interview, and the reason it's so long is that I just got carried away talking to her, and it was just a wonderful time to spend with her. I will be breaking this interview up into segments, but if you want to listen to the entire interview, it will be on our Spotify channel, our YouTube channel. You'll be able to chase it down here. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the journey. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate you spending the time with us. You know, our prelim chat just made me so blown away with what you've done. And I'm really excited to hear your entire story, to chat to you about the industry and to get your take on what's happening. So can we kick off, please, with you giving me some background about how you got into this industry? You know, how did you make things happen? You know, what was your start in this place? I'm dying to hear.
Okay, so my mom, they immigrated to Canada from Italy in the late 1960s with my dad. She was 20, my dad was 22. The very typical immigrant story: arrived poor, but poor with money, but very rich in spirit. This is what I always tell my children. You know, you can have all the money in the world, but still have a poor mentality. So maybe financially they were poor, but they were rich in spirit. And they worked like all immigrants in manufactories at minimum wage, 12 hours a day with no workers' protection, you know, back in those days. And then my mom was introduced to this multi-level marketing business, which is Tupperware, known around the world. I've been to South Africa. By the way, I have a whole showcase here of South African artifacts that
Oh, wow.
Our president has given us when we achieve different challenges. Just thought I'd throw that in because it's one of my favorite glass cases. So when she was working in the sewing industry, in the manufacturing, she got hurt. And that week that she was at home, somebody knocked at her door and offered her the opportunity to host a party. And she was very limited, even though if it was 5 years she was in Canada, she was very limited her French, because we're in the French part of Canada. But she understood enough that, you know, she would get free, you know, if it's free, it's for me, merchandise.
Right,
and she said yes to the Tupperware party. So that being said, I still think it's relevant today to go friend finding if you're in a multi-level marketing business, to do door-to-door. I don't think that will ever die. I still think
100%.
It's a great way of doing business, especially in a country like yours, South Africa, not in Canada. I wish I could show you the outside. We received today over 30 centimeters of snow. It took me over an hour and a half to shovel my car out this morning. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we're limited, right, in the friend finding we could do. So long story short, after less than a year, she was recognized #1 in Canada. Salesperson. She earned a Mustang, you know, she was making money. And quickly, thanks to an additional income, which was the multi-level marketing business, they became millionaires within 10 years. So one of my main messages I like to share with my people is this: your first 8 hours you work is to pay your bills. Every minute after that, those 8 hours is for your dream life.
Oh, you're making me go goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps here.
Nobody will live their dream life with 8 hours a day. Nobody.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more.
So that's it. So my parents had an incredible work ethic, which of course I watched, I observed. I've duplicated and improved in the sense where my parents believed in that old mentality, why you're going to pay somebody if you can do it yourself. So they wore t-shirts with the big letter S. My dad was Superman. My mom was Superwoman. But today I say, burn those t-shirts, burn those t-shirts. Make sure you hire the right help, like you have somebody helping you out with your podcast, so you can be more aligned with where you're going. So my parents reached #1 status in the field. My mom passed away in 95, so my dad was obliged to sell the business. But what my mom did in 15 years, we tripled that in 15 years because I refused to wear the S t-shirt. I burned it. So, you hire the right help, you delegate to the right people, and you just
and you recruit the right team.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. 100% agree with you. So you are now, did you take over your mom's position or did you build your position from the ground up?
We were competitors. So when I was with her, I was her manager. So she was my upline. But the way our multi-level marketing businesses work, when you buy your own franchise, you become the franchise you were in competitor.
I'm with you.
So she 100%. No longer got paid on me. She no longer got the sales recognition. And I started my own.
With you.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Lovely. Yes. So you were competing with her and you beat her.
No. While she was alive, we were always #2. She was always #1. You know what really? It is, Richard, now that she's passed, it was also a little barrier there, I don't know how to explain it. Being humble is very important. We were both.
And she was an Italian mama, and you don't mess with an Italian mama. Come on.
Yeah. So we always
know your place.
Just nose to nose, just a little bit behind, and she passed at age 51. I'm 58. And she was an incredible inspiration to all of North America here. Yeah. Oh,
wow. So you're entrenched in Sconster. You've been in 15 years, you say?
Now I've been in the business. This is my 41st year, 41 years.
What?
Yeah.
Good heavens, did you start when you were 10?
18. I started when I was 18.
Come on, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you look incredible, just by the way.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Yeah. I always say happy marriage, happy when we enjoy what we do and we do what we love, it's easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. 100%. So you've now 41 years. Can you tell me a little bit about your success within the business? Is that allowed?
Oh, yes. We are right now #1 in the world. We generate over $50 million of sales annually.
Good
and
heavens.
Over 50,000 recruits annually.
That is absolutely incredible. In how many countries?
No, we only work out of Quebec. I only have...
What?
Yes, listen, I only have 8 million people to work with, 4 million addresses, homes. Can you imagine if I had the world?
Oh, unbelievable. I can imagine. Good grief. That is incredible. So you're doing that volume just out of Quebec?
Yes.
So if anybody tells you that they can't make this business work, what do you say to them?
I say, you're right. If you think you can't make it work, you're right. And if you think you can make it work, you're right. You're right either way.
And you've got a tiny little market and you're still #1 in the world.
Yes. Now we're trying to pierce the English part of Canada, but we primarily work in French. My English is not the language I work in, but I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah, excellent. I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, this is new. And this is why we have this new vision of 280 million. Okay. Because it's taking a vision and it needs to be quantifiable, if that is an English word, which means it is good, which means that can I mathematically and logically equate it to the goal, the vision I set myself. So let me share with you. If I were to sell just one product per Canadian household, not per person, per Canadian household. Now, don't forget the Italian homes in Canada, there's 20 people in them. And the Canadian homes with English people, there's 2 people in them. The running joke we have here, right? Because we all live together. That being said, it's one product per home at a $20 value. I said it, which is, we don't even have anything in our catalog that costs $20. Everything is higher than that. Because I need I need the people I lead to conceive what I'm saying, because to achieve it, they must conceive it, right?
Sure.
So I say, imagine where your mission becomes helping out 1,000 Canadians, 1,000 homes. And all you want to do is place one product in each home per year. That equates to 280 million.
Good grief. When you break it down to that, it's incredible. I mean, it just seems so achievable.
Exactly. And that's the secret, because there's a difference between dreaming upon a star, which are people that are just dreamers, and those that, convert the dream into a goal. And a lot of people, unfortunately, are just dreamers. Like they say things, but they're not quantifiable. Like they don't take the time to mathematically. I'm married to an engineer, so if it's not mathematically equatable, he says it's not achievable.
Well, absolutely. The way that I put it is that the world is full of people with a wishbone but no backbone.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
You're welcome to it. You can have it. It's yours.
Thank you.
And it's exactly what you're saying. They wish they could do it, but they don't have the backbone to make it happen.
Yes.
And as Dale Carnegie said, don't wait for it to happen. Go out and make it happen.
Yes.
And what you're saying is so easy. One item per household. I mean, that's so achievable. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So now the how will come to you once there's clarity in what you want, because people always focus on the how. And I keep telling them, stop figuring out the how. I believe in God. So I know that if it's clear in my mind what I want, he will show me how to get it done. But if
you're prepared to do the work,
if there's no clarity in my mind, the how will never show up.
Agreed. 100%. Now, obviously your business is built on a epic product. So can we just take a moment to chat about the product? Because Tupperware, I mean, I'm just going to say it. I've got Tupperware in my home that I inherited from my grandparents. So my grandparents passed it on to my mother, and my mother passed it on to us. And we've got Tupperware in perfect working order in our home that goes back 3 generations. And that some of it, I don't know, it's 50, 60, 70 years old. I don't know. How long has Tupperware been around?
In North America, 80 years. In France, let's say 65 years. It depends when it was introduced, at what moment. I know that Tupperware in South Africa was very big. I don't think it is anymore for whatever reasons, but it is a iconic brand.
Iconic brand.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about how important the product is. I mean, when you're recruiting somebody, how big a part of your recruiting strategy is the actual product?
That's a tough one to answer, because it's kind of split 50-50. You have those that join for the product. They want to get it at the discount because it's very expensive. And then you have those that join any multi-level marketing business because they're looking for a extra income to live their dream life. And because we deal primarily with women, a lot of them really start for the product to get it at a discount. I think fewer start for the money. So is the brand of importance? Okay. The way I work, I don't sell the brand. You see, that's what's interesting. I sell the dream. You see, I'm all about, if you are ambitious, if you are loud about what you want in your life, if you are a worker, if you are that person that right now at the job you are at, you arrive at 7:30, 7:45 when you start at 8 a.m. and you're leaving at 4:10, 4:15 when you're supposed to leave at 4. I want you on my team because with your incredible work ethic with me, you'll be part of my 1,000 millionaires. That's actually my recruiting bid that I do. So I attract very ambitious people.
Okay, let me ask you it this way then. I'd like to put it this way. Of your top successful people, how many of them are not passionate about the product?
They're all passionate about the product. 100%.
And if the product wasn't great and they couldn't get passionate about it, it'd be very, very difficult for them to be successful. I think you'd agree with that.
Yes, absolutely. But you see, that comes after I recruited you.
Perfect.
So once I've recruited you, now it's a whole system, right? It's a whole system where you begin to discover the product one piece at a time. I focus a lot on 4 basic products. Like we have an incredible product line, but there's a difference between a final sale and a sale that is creating a system in your home. So a lot of it is training. And a lot of multi-level marketing businesses, unfortunately, don't spend enough time on training their people.
Especially about the product.
Yes, they need to be trained. So example, I sell a garlic press, but I teach you when you're selling a garlic press, it's a final sale. Nobody's going to buy 2 garlic press. So I teach you and I train you to build your refrigerator system so there's no fresh produce waste, example. And I make you discover it a bit at a time where you totally fall in love with the system. And now you are passionate about the fridge smarts, example.
And you keep on building on it. So now the dealer has a customer that will continue to buy from them.
Yes.
So how good is this product? I mean, I know how I feel about it, but how good is Tupperware? What makes it so amazing?
It works. It's a product that really works. It helps people save time because you can do your groceries once every 2 weeks. I mean, if you're like in Canada, don't forget the weather is very bad most of the year. So people will go out and do groceries like once every 2 weeks. Well, imagine, Richard, you can keep spinach fresh, crisp for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks at a time. So the less time you go to the grocery store, the more frugal you are in the kitchen. So my concept is frugality begins in the kitchen. And I learned that from my parents. My dad taught me when you're frugal in the kitchen, you know how to rub that nickel until it turns into $5, you will be rich. But if you think making supper at $10 a person is normal, he says to me, you'll never be rich. Okay, so he taught me how to cook stews. He taught me how to cook, pastas. Depending on different countries, it's rice. It can be couscous. And my husband is Algerian, so the staples. Working with that, not only you eat healthier, but on top of that, it costs a fraction of what it costs if people don't know how to cook.
And don't know how to keep their stuff fresh, because I know for a fact that very often you'll end up throwing away produce that you actually should have been able to keep fresh, and it just lands up in the dustbin. And that is a huge cost.
Yeah. So we get you as a customer to put brown sugar in a modular, and then you're so impressed that your brown sugar after so many months is still as soft as when you put it in, or your fruits and vegetables or your freezer containers, because meat here in Canada is very expensive. Fresh fish is very expensive. So you wait for the specials at the grocery store and then stock up. But how do you stock up if you don't have the right containers? So if you're going to stock up on ground beef, because whatever price it is a pound, it's really a good deal, but it goes freezer burn on you. was it really a good deal? So it's a whole logical, remember, everything needs to be quantifiable. There's a whole logical process that once you buy into it, there is no way you're ever going. Once you know Tupperware, you can never go back. Once you know the real Tupperware organizational systems, even if you're no longer in Tupperware, you would never go back to putting your fresh produce in the refrigerator drawer. You would never do that again in your life because it really works.
I presume that when you are training your people, your new people, you are getting them to a point where they not only understand why Tupperware is amazing, but they actually fall in love with it as the process. And so even if they stopped being a distributor, they would always, forever and a day, continue to be your customer.
Yeah. So they become our ambassadors, you see. So even if you would no longer be in Tupperware for whatever reason, Richard, which is normal, 9 out of 10 don't stay, but they are amazing ambassadors. Like they would only swear by Tupperware. Like they keep selling it because they actually use it. So integrity. And the word integrity is of the utmost importance for me. Teaching integrity to my sales force is what you're saying and what you're doing. Is it the same thing? You know,
100%.
So, I mean, I could go on and on and on. I have a whole system of training, but you know, that's what it's about. I usually recruit for the money because you're looking for the extra income. Now I need you to fall in love with the product so you can sell it, because every time I ask multi-level marketing businesses, how do you make money? They tell me we recruit. And I say, no, you don't. You make money by selling a quality product with a quality service using word of mouth. Yeah, but you tell us to recruit. Yes, we recruit to have more people sell a quality product with a quality service using word of mouth. But never
100%.
You know, we make money by selling. And unfortunately, a lot of multi-level marketing are not explaining that. So you have a whole bunch of people being recruited, but nobody's working, nobody's selling.
And then nobody's making money. And then they go around telling everybody what a rotten industry it is.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, it's if you were selling the product, and that's we talk to all of our clients about this. We say to them, listen, guys, if your people cannot make money purely by buying the product at a discount and selling it at a profit, you don't have a business.
Yes.
So rule number one, and the second thing I tell people is that if you don't believe in your product and you still sell it, you're a con artist. If you sell something you don't believe in, you're a con artist. And so I find that, and I think that you've agreed with me here, I find that the most successful people in our space are people who believe heart and soul in their products and who sell it with conviction.
Yes. And that's our job as leaders, to train on the product. So right now, we've had a lot of changes in our industry. I'm talking about, you know, the upper level management, CEO, you know, CFO and whatever. And I'm going to be very loud about it because I don't care. They don't understand the product.
They understand the industry.
Yeah. So they don't understand the value of the product. I said to our president, who's no longer our president, by the way, 18 months later, I said to him, I am curious. And I texted him in private. I said, I am curious. I would love to know if your kitchen is Tupperwareized. And he answered me, of course, I have a few pieces of Tupperware. He didn't understand even the essence of my question. How can you lead a company if the leader doesn't understand the product? So right now,
not passionate about the product.
Yes.
It's not just understanding it, to be passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly. When we had Rick Goings, I mean, he had a lot of faults probably running the company as a CEO, but I'm not looking at that. The company was doing this because he used the product. He was passionate about the product. You know, he cooked for us on a stage with the product. And you saw that he actually, because if you're going to pretend to use my product, I will be able to tell. My mom always said, never lie, because who you are really will always speak louder than who you say you are. So when we watched Rick Goings or Simon on stage, like, oh, and this is unfortunately, you know, leaders without passion will kill a business. So right now we're through very tough times, as if anybody, researches our shares and whatever. And I'm here to say everything rises and falls on leadership. It's like a pendulum. They come and they will go, and we'll find the right people and we will build up again, and let
100%.
my personal business be an example on when you are passionate and you've got systems in place and you're investing on training your people. You've got to train your people. The only road is up.
Well, the question that I would have is, and what I would be thinking is, if I was leading Tupperware, now, if I got given the job of leading Tupperware, the very first thing I would do is I would go to the person who is the #1 franchise in the world, and I would sit down with them and I'd say, right, what are you doing? And when I find out what they were doing, I would say, right, how do we duplicate this throughout the world? That would be my first activity that I would doing. And I don't know if your CEOs are ever going to listen to this, but my recommendation to them is they should come and sit down with you, find out how you're doing it, what's making you #1 in the world, and then go and do that everywhere. Because, I mean, the blueprint is right there.
Yeah, Richard, it's funny you say that. I'm going to share something with you. I have great friends, because as you become more and more wealthy, your surrounding changes, right? So I have friends that are corporate in other companies, pharmaceutical companies, and so on. And Alan Miller, who has a doctorate's degree in pharmaceutical products, who's the head of a big pharmaceutical company here, he says, Maria, I don't understand why they don't sit down with you and figure out a way to bottle what you're doing. And I said to Alan, I said, because there's ego in the way. And as long as we have leaders that aren't humble and have large egos, we can never get our companies to the next level. I don't care which company you are. We need leaders that are truly leading with the dream of making this world a better world.
Well, one of the greatest leaders in the history of the world, which is a guy called Nelson Mandela, said to be a good leader, you need to be a great follower.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so again, I stress that if your leadership ever hears this, guys, what are you thinking? You got the #1 person in the world, sit down with her.
Yeah. No, nobody asks questions. And the thing that's funny, it's an ongoing success. Like, who grows for 40 years consistently? Don't you have any question? And of course, I stay within my circle of influence, because if there's no student, there cannot be a teacher. So one of the things that's very important, I also like to share with people, is remember, you cannot teach something to somebody who's not willing to be a student. So sometimes I've been at conferences and say, Maria, you're quiet. Why don't you say anything? I say, because you haven't asked me anything.
Yeah, you see.
Why would I speak up? If you ask me a question, I will answer your question. But if you don't ask me a question, my role is to be humble and to be silent and listen, because I will keep learning as you all speak.
Exactly. I'm with you 100%. Okay, let's move on to the next segment, which I'd like to talk about. Can you tell me a bit about your compensation plan and why it's an excellent compensation plan, and how, if I join today, how could I go about making some money with Tupperware? Why would I join Tupperware from a financial point of view?
Yeah, so you join Tupperware with a membership at 20 Canadian dollars, which is nothing. And from the moment you start selling one product, you make 25% net in your pockets, directly deposited in your bank account. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And I think that's a big key to compensation plan. If you can't, if a 7-year-old cannot explain your compensation plan, it will never work. Compensation plan are too complicated. Ours is this is why it's been working for over 80 years. It's easy. You make 25% on the dollar, no matter what you're selling and no matter which special brochure or regular catalog. You earn as you learn immediately upon starting Tupperware. I mean, how easy is that to explain? So if I tell a 7-year-old, he can explain the compensation plan on a huge platform.
So you sell $10, we're going to give you $2.50.
Exactly.
Simple.
Straightforward. Now, if you're because we have two types of people selling. You have the type of people who sell, but have no products at home. You can run it. But you see, this now becomes part of the training. This is not something I would recruit with, because then if you buy on special and sell it a little bit later at regular price, then you can increase those profits, right? Because, you know, you've been kind of investing in reselling. So you have two ways to work your business: as a zero inventory or with inventory, provided you have smart business sense. But it's 25%. Okay. I don't care what, you know, compensation.
The minimum you're going to ever get, minimum ever, will be 25%.
Exactly. Now,
perfect.
In a class, if you were to attend a class, I would show you how to get bonuses, but that becomes now very specific. You know, are you a salesperson that wants more? And if you are, then you will choose to attend the advanced class. And this is where we'll explain to you, when you achieve, you know, $1,800 of sale, you'll get an extra bonus. But remember, if we start explaining this to the general public, you will lose the public, because it gets complex.
Complicated, yeah.
So you have to be able to explain it in under 10 seconds, and that 7-year-old child can repeat what you're saying and understand it.
Okay, so if I'm a team leader now, so I'm excited about the business, I understand MLM, and I get my 25%, but I actually want to start getting a team going. Is that possible with Tupperware?
Absolutely. So as you recruit, 3, you step up to managers. You have 6, you go to star manager, like any, you know, multi-level compensation plan. As a director, you know, you need $37,500 of sales within 3 months, and so on and so forth. So without going into much detail, a full-time director, Tupperware director in Canada or in the US, generates over $100K a year. It is the best 6-digit income opportunity, in my opinion, in North America. Now, I also have people earning $500,000, and my number one right now is Annie. It's her 3rd or 4th consecutive year at over $1.3 million.
Dollars.
Yeah. Income.
Annual.
Income. Yeah, annual. Mm-hmm.
Good heavens, I'm in the wrong business.
It's very, very, very lucrative. Like, if you give yourself the time, I usually tell people, give yourself 5 years, and you'll be easily at $250,000 in income annually. Of course, with intentionality, right? You've got to grow your mindset. You've got to develop skills. You've got to create systems that work for you, so it's done every day, and that takes time. I mean, you don't go to the Olympics because you started swimming today and swim with Michael Phelps. That doesn't happen. So if you start today and you train yourself, within less than 5 years, you will be a 6-digit income earner.
Now, I think it was you who said this to me, but I could be wrong. You said to me that in order to grow your income, you have to grow the person.
Yes, the mindset.
Yeah. Was it you that said it? I think it was you that said to me, in order to grow as my income, I have to grow my mind.
Yes. Mindset is everything, Richard. Mindset is everything. You know, the problem we have is that people come into business with an employee mindset. And the way I like to share it in my meetings, I say to them, you see, if you're an employee mind, the 4-letter word, which is work, is connected to, thank God it's Friday. Yeah. It's connected to, oh, I can't go have fun with you, I have to work. It's connected to drudgery. It's connected to not a good feeling.
All the negative things are associated with work, aren't they?
Now, an entrepreneurship mindset, work, that 4-letter word is being able to showcase my gifts. Work is connected to possibility of making this world a better world. The word work is connected to personal self-expression. Like it's a whole other mindset. I don't have to go to work. I get to work. You see, it's a whole mindset. And if we don't develop people's mindset, they can never grow. My wallet.
And they can never succeed either.
Yeah. So when people say to me, my income hasn't grown, I said, because you have not grown. Income only grows if you grow as a human being. If there is no
100%.
personal growth, there will be no wallet growth. So I do a podcast, Richard, every morning in French and in English, but I don't do it because my goal is to be a podcast. No, I do it because I want to be accountable to me. I need to read leadership books every day. I need to read them. I need to highlight them. I need to take notes, and I need to teach it, because if I read it, I will forget it. If I ink it, I will remember 50%. But if I ink it and teach it, I will retain 90%. So my goal of my podcast has nothing to do with my listeners. It's accountability that I have to every morning get up at 5, read, ink it, and deliver it by 8 a.m.
Fantastic.
Before I start my work, which is changing lives, which is building 1,000 millionaires.
Now, I'm going to ask you before we go on, what are the top 3 books that you would recommend to a new distributor?
It's an old one. Og Mandino, the greatest salesman in the world.
What a book. Love it.
It has 10 chapters, 10 scrolls, as he calls it. And each scroll will take you 1 month. I did it 3 times in my life, okay? And the first time I did, I was 18 years old. I started it in September, and you have to calculate 10 months. I finished it in May of 1984, okay? It's 10 scrolls, and it's very important you don't cheat. You have to read it once in the morning before breakfast. You have to read it a second time in the afternoon after your lunch, because when your tummy is full, you think differently. And you have to read it out loud at night, just before going to bed. And I always recommend standing up in front of a mirror and reading that scroll. Each scroll takes 30 days. So it takes 10 months to finish it. So I always laugh when people say to me, I read the book. Okay. And did it change your life? No, that's it. You read the book.
Yeah.
There's a difference between
you got to live the book, actually. Yeah.
And applying. I applied it at 18 years old. So it took me 2 years. Back in the days, I became #1 in Canada as a manager. Okay. So that would be my book #1. Very, 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 very easy. My book #2, Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill.
Guys.
What a book.
Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich. You know, it's all about how you are thinking.
Yeah.
Like
manifesting things into your life.
Think and Grow Rich would definitely, but it's a hard book. You see, it's a book that's going to it took me years to complete, to integrate. I redid it on a podcast. I did it a second time on another podcast. I did it a third time. Like, I mean, it's been a 20-year process just with that one book. And then #3, I would simply say all the John Maxwell books are fantastic books for any beginners in multi-level marketing business.
They really are how-to books, those John Maxwell books.
Yeah.
I love them as well.
Simple.
It's how-to.
Yeah.
Simple. This is what you do. If you do it, it's effective. It's all like very solid, logical ways to do things. Yeah, I like him as well.
Yeah, and he repeats a lot, you know. So in the repetition, there's conviction. You know, like a lot of times I read his books. I said, if I would have written this, it would have been 10 pages. But right now, one of the podcasts we're doing is the Maxwell book, which is are your dreams matching your actions? I love teaching John Maxwell because he's elementary.
Yeah. Yes, is what you're doing in line with what you're dreaming? Because so many people have a dream that's going in this way, but when you have a look at their activities, going completely different direction. and they're not aligned. The dream and the action is not aligned. Yeah, 100%. A great one. Love it.
And one that I don't think everybody would have the depth that I have in my business to read is, and that's why I don't give it as a number 3, but rather the Maxwell for me personally, but you really need to want to change the world. It's the one of Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective.
Read that as well several times. My
Very
favorite
hard.
book of all time.
You agree with me? It's, you give that to a newbie, he's going to get discouraged.
Well, you know what I do to make it easier? I actually buy the book in Kindle, but I also buy the audiobook. And then what I do is I read the book while listening to the audio tape. So I actually get it coming at me from my ears, and I get it physically reading it. It keeps me super focused on the page. It keeps the information coming at me via my eyes and via my ears. And then, of course, you can, because you're reading very fast, because it actually keeps the pace up, you can get through a book like that 3 or 4 times in a month. And if you read it over and over again like that, with both the audio and the visual, it makes the retention is just through the roof. So I recommend to all the people that I'm working with to get the audiobook, get the actual written book, and then do it together, and then set aside the time and work through it. So even a book that's really tough, like the 7 Habits, if you've got the audio and the visual, it actually keeps you disciplined and takes you through the process. Fantastic book, though, isn't that? Just the most amazing book. You apply those 7 habits, it's life-changing. Absolutely,
but they're not,
life-changing.
Again, they're not easy. Anybody listening, I mean, it sounds great what Stephen Covey says, but in action, it takes dedication. And that's why I do the podcast. It has nothing to do with the listeners, because the podcast obliges me to split it up in bite size and to actually use it in my own life. And that's been a book I've done 3 times also, Richard.
Yeah. And of course, every one of us, and I don't know which one is yours, but every one of us has real trouble with one of those habits. My one is seek to understand before seeking to be understood. That's the one I have a lot of trouble with. I seek to be understood first before even listening to anyone. But again, what an amazing book. I do also recommend that to anyone. Now, just getting back to the compensation plan very quickly to sort of end this section off. At the end of the day, you were saying to me, people come in for the money, but they stay for the passion of the product. Would that be accurate?
Exactly. So, for changing their lives. They will bite into the mission that I have. And our mission is helping out 1,000 families in Canada save time, save money, eat healthier, because weight is a huge factor in North America. Obesity is huge. Diabetes type 2 is huge. Heart disease, simply because they've left making food to the huge industries that are connected with the pharmaceutical companies. You need to take back control of your kitchen, to take back control of your life.
And your health.
And your 100%. Health. And if you want to be the solution to the pollution, we've got to go back to cooking. And people make cooking look like the publicities. They make cooking look like drudgery. It's not. It's an art. It's a way of expressing oneself, and it unites I'm Italian. I mean, there's no way you're going to tell me your family is going to reunite around a table with a pizza box. It's not happening.
Agreed.
You need to put that salad on the table. Then they have no choice to come at the table and serve themselves that hot bread, the butter, then bring in the pasta, then bring in the meat. Like, the act of eating together is so, you know what? It's still the act worldwide that unites people together.
100% agree with you. Okay, so that brings me to the next section, which I think is a critical part of multi-level marketing, and I really like to get your take on it, and that is the concept of community. How important is community and your ethos within your community? How important is that as part of the multi-level marketing, and specifically part of your business?
100%. My company is called The Diamonds, Les Diamants in French, and it's a community. It's a community. It's a community. Well, what do you mean, Maria? Well, we look at the strengths and the gifts of every one of our leaders, directors. And we have, I'm going to say names, it's going to be easier for me. Annie Marchand is very good at executing a task. Sylvain is very good at saying, well, this is complicated. Okay. You have Jean-Philippe, who's excellent at articulating the explanation of a product. So basically, my job is a talent seeker. Every time we promote a new director, I will know, because I build a deep, meaningful relationship with each one of my directors, because I meet with them on Zoom like this every single week, you know, and I go by groups of 20-80 and 80-20, you know, in performance. I know who they are. So I know what your strength is, Richard. And I make sure in the diamond community, all my directors shine in accordance to their gifts. I would never ask you, Richard, to explain a product if it is not your gift to articulate well the demonstration of a product.
I hear you.
So you're going to love what you do. So together, we are better. Together, we're able to give the entire 50,000 members a unwavering schedule of Monday morning, we have power hour, Monday night, we have welcome class, we have training, like we have this unwavering schedule to follow, where each one of my directors delivers something according to their gifts. I always say the gifts God has given you. We're all born with a set of gifts. We all have a role to play in this world. And Tupperware is the vehicle. Multi-level marketing is a vehicle for you to showcase your gifts to the world as an
100%.
ordinary person wanting to do something extraordinary.
And that concept of belonging, that feeling of being able to add to the whole, that feeling of being part of something amazing, that is all part of that community spirit, I presume.
Absolutely. And what happens when you are working in a community, so you as one of my directors, which happened last week, you're able to communicate with me and say, you know, one of our directors stole a client from mine. So I listened. Now, remember, as a leader, you have to have the discernment. There is what she says, there is what the other person says, and then there's the truth, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not here to play judgment or whatever, but this is what I will do. And this is why they appreciate me as a leader. I'm going to go every week. We have a weekly rally. And at the rally, I will say, you know, it is so important, respect. And I'll give a whole speech on respect, giving them examples without anybody knowing who said something to me.
I hear you.
You understand? Because
Yes.
if that happened, it's because we've neglected in our build the people and the people will build the business to talk about the importance of respect, and that we need to feel safe in the community, and not that I'm inviting you to see one of my parties and then you steal one of my customers.
I hear you.
That's my job.
And that's what keeps that community together. And I'm sure that a big part of why you are so successful is because you've built this amazing community with, as you say, loads of respect.
Yes. Yes.
100%.
And they trust me. You understand, Richard? I would never do something that would not benefit 100% everybody in the community. I won't do it. I won't do it. I just won't do it. You know, at a certain point in our company, we had another president, and I had told him, I said, you know, I don't want to mention names. I said, I'm not going to promote that. And he goes, well, Maria, you have to. No, Maria doesn't have to do anything. I don't believe in what you're doing. I don't think it benefits my sales force. I'm not going to do it. And I said to myself, what's he going to do? Fire me? I'm not an employee. Well, Lord and behold, 6 months later, he wasn't there anymore. I'm still here.
Exactly.
And my team knows that. I'll go to war for them.
Perfect. Okay, so let's move on to the next segment that I really want to talk to you about, because again, I think it's really important, and that is recognizing people's achievement. How important is recognition, and how do you go about it? What are your recognition strategies, let's call it?
Recognition is everything. Just remember this sentence: people will work harder for praises than they will for raises, especially in the world we're living right now. They basically have eliminated recognition. By the way, I'm talking for my own company, right? Even in Tupperware, it's lacking recognition, it's lacking validation, and it's they have no idea how destructive that can be. So for me, I stay within my circle of influence, Stephen Covey, circle of concern, circle of influence. That's my favorite chapter. So Maria, what are you going to do to stay in your circle of influence? Well, every day, I hire somebody. I've hired somebody every day. Her job is to recognize the sales force. Top 10 consultants in personal sales, top 10 consultants every day, month to date in personal recruiting, top 10 manager, and I segment them in the different levels so they can compete within their level.
100%.
And Richard, it's every day. It's every day. Recognition every day. And then I have the number ones every week do me a video of their mini Tupper story, right? Their family status, how they joined Tupperware, what was their first reaction when they were introduced to the business, 30 to 60 seconds. And then she has to share in her video 3 things that make her so successful. So we make sure the number one has her own picture and we insert her testimonial video. So every day there's recognition, and then they get the video inserted every week of the number one. The next week, if number one did already her video, we'll ask number two. So throughout the month, we are showing their names, we are showing their families, we're showing their videos. I mean, besides costing me employee time, how easy is it to recognize and validate people?
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's one of the most underrated activities in the MLM space. And you know, people, they're working hard. And what does it hurt you to just say to them, wow, you're doing an absolutely amazing job? And of course, saying that to them in public. You know, I watched Amway. They have a situation where they'll say, everybody who signed up 2 people, please stand up. And the audience gives them a standing ovation. And so what a wonderful way to recognize somebody's activities by actually, at a cost nothing. How much does it cost to clap hands for them? You know, so I'm 100% on your page in terms of recognition. So that's a great way of recognition. Is there any sort of more? Yeah, let me hear.
I'll continue. So that's step 1, using social media in our benefit. And they also receive the recognition of the week by email. And it's also put into Messenger's group. So there's no page left unturned, right? Number 2, I, the leader, verbally underline the overall number 1. So I'm very careful, making sure that when I underline somebody, they have to be overall. So I use my influence tonight is the French rally. Last night was the English. I'll use my influence to say, and Melanie Fontaine has just beaten, but that's me live, me using her. You know what they would give to have my lips pronounce their name?
100%. I understand exactly the impact of that. Wow. Yeah.
So that brings year after year, all-time record breakers. So let me give you an example. So we have a new record established in personal sales of, I don't know, $4,000 the first time. Well, today, that personal record, if you want to beat it, is at $30,000. That's the power of momentum. Personal recruiting, we began recognizing overall number one at 10. Today, you want to be number one personal recruiter, you need 135 recruits.
Good grief.
Momentum, the big mo. Oh my God. Oh. Once you got the big mo going, oh, it's so easy. And it's only acquired through recognition.
So
And
critical part. Yeah, so 3 years.
And the third part is physical recognition, which means you actually get a reward, okay, or an event. So Saturday night, this Saturday, only the top of my directors are invited to a very prestigious supper, 5-star supper with dance and games and photo shoot, glamour night. But this now, we're only 107 people. But we're going to go live. Everybody's going to go live and everybody's going to see what they could have been a part of. So it's split in many different categories, making sure we recognize and validate those that attend simply to those that outperform, so, and everything in between.
Wonderful. I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, obviously, as I'm going through this conversation with you, I'm realizing more and more and more why you're so jolly successful. I mean, it's obvious. You are implementing these things. And again, I stress, why is your company not talking to you? Stress that. Okay, then I'm going to come into land in terms of what we're discussing now and this wonderful conversation we're having to talk to you about incentives. And what is the role of incentives within your business? How does a person win an incentive? What would they have to do to get there? How many people do you take? All of those kind of good things.
There's so many incentives. I mean, there's incentives when you sell $200 this week. You'll get this container. You know, I've got one right here, you know. So again, incentives are at all levels. They must be at all levels. You cannot only have incentives for the high achievers. It's not going to work. So you need incentives for the people in their first week of business, in the first 30 days of business. You need incentives when they achieve level 1. What do they get? Okay, they get, you know, this exclusive Tupperware product, all the way up to a trip to Hawaii, all the way up to qualifying for a Mustang for free or $25,000 cash. Okay, all the way up to a WOW program. You get $4,300 US in travel vouchers of the destination of your choice. Now, remember, if you only have the big ones, it won't work. You know, less than 1% are going to strive for those. So you need to look at your incentives and say, what do we have at each one of the, it has to be a staircase. So what I do with my community is we look at what Tupperware does. Okay. That's what I can't do anything about because it's Tupperware. Okay. But then I go to my circle of influence and I say, well, they didn't do anything for the consultant stepping up to manager. They're missing a step here. And I'll fill in that gap.
Oh, lovely.
Okay. And then I look and I said, well, there's no trip they put for as an incentive in January. January is a big month. You need to put an incentive there. They didn't do it. I put in a Cancun trip.
Oh, wow.
So I look at what the corporation has done and look at the holes in the staircase. And I fill in those holes.
And you making sure that you hit every person where they are in the business.
Exactly.
Because a person who's just started, they cannot relate to going to Cancun because they only just started. But they could relate to getting this free product or getting this kit or going on this training course or whatever. There could be something of meaning there for them.
Yeah, it's, you know, in January, we did things, we called it the 28-day challenge. You could do one day, you can do all 28, but it was as simple as, Richard, today, show your favorite product on social media. It was that simple.
And then you got recognized for that, or you got your incentive prize.
Yeah. And all you had to do was post. So now I'm validating you because you have your picture under the poster of the day that you did the challenge. Simple.
I'm with you.
Simple. But remember, in our multi-level company, there's all kinds of people, and then I break it down even more with my directors and said, Tupperware's doing this. I'm doing this. This is what you should do.
And they do it with their people.
Yes. So all levels are touched.
Involved in that incentive.
Everybody. Yeah.
And tell me something, a lot of incentives, I look at these companies and they've got this winner takes all type mentality. And I've always been more inclined to say that incentives work when you've got a hit it and get it campaign. In other words, if you hit these targets, you get this incentive, rather than if you're the top person, we take you to Cancun. Is
Absolutely.
that your opinion as well?
Yeah, it's got to be for everybody to play in the game. You cannot have one person get it all. And usually that person that gets it all, I've been there, she didn't do it for that. She's just an incredible leader and hard worker. Whether she got it or not, she didn't care. She's doing it for a bigger cause.
And generally, if you've got one person getting it, it demoralizes the rest because they think, well, I'll never get that, so why do I bother?
What a great way to just tell your whole sales team, you're all losers. She already got it. What are you doing?
Exactly.
What are you doing?
So when you plan out your incentives, you are looking at saying, okay, if you achieve this in your space, we're going to give you whatever the reward is.
Yeah. And it's at all levels. It's at all levels. There can never be a winner take all. If you have that mentality, you will create separation and you will create division.
And you want to actually create cohesion. And it's again back to your community situation.
Yes.
Well, we are coming to the end of this unbelievable chat. I'm so excited to have talked to you. Is there anything else that you would like to sort of just as we go out the door, is there any other messaging you would like to deliver to people who are out there thinking of getting into multi-level marketing, thinking of getting into using MLM as a route to market, or even thinking of joining Tupperware or another MLM company? What would your advice to somebody be?
Okay, I would advise you to join a multi-level marketing business that has already an established reputation. So this way, you don't have to deal with that first step, which is proving to people your product is good. It helps when you have 3 generations or 2 generations, or at least 1 generation that can credit what you're doing. That would be my first recommendation. Number 2, make sure that the entry point is with 0 investment. What I'm talking about, I don't like multi-level marketing business that require you to buy into an inventory to start. Okay. I think that's wrong. That shouldn't be happening. That should be a choice you make later on as you earn and you decide to have inventory. But if they're requiring you to have inventory, don't do it. That's my second recommendation. And my third recommendation is a 4-point. So the third recommendation, once you've joined a multi-level marketing business, remember there's 4 things you got to work on all the time. Okay. Number 1 is your mindset. Listen to podcasts, read books, be accountable to exercising what you're learning to grow as a human being. You cannot grow your wallet if you do not grow your mind. Okay. Number 2 in this category is develop your skills. Generally, there's 7 skills you need to develop. One of them is finding new clients every day. Example. Okay, so develop the skills you need in your multi-level marketing. Hone those skills. Make sure it's an everyday thing you're doing. So that brings me to point number 3, systems. Every time somebody says, Maria, we got to do this, I said, let me think about it first, because If we do it, it's got to be in an unwavering schedule. It's got to be in a system. If it's not in an unwavering schedule, in a system, it's never going to work. Again, it's going to be another thing we try. And I was, oh, it didn't work. Of course it didn't work. There was no consistency. Okay.
No system. Yeah.
Yes. And number 4, strategic thinking. You need to strategically think and strategically plan your month. It needs to be strategic according to whatever you have. Strategic thinking. If you're not thinking strategically, it is not going to work. It is not going to work. So those would be my 3 takeaways, for a multi-level marketing. And give yourself time. I always say to people, you need to be relentless. You need to be consistent, and you need to be persevering. RCP, RCP, RCP. Give yourself time. They always quit just before the next hit. They always quit just before. And then they start over again on another train. They got to put on the racks and push. Oh my God, don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't talk to me about that. Exactly. 100%. Well, look, this has been amazing. I've absolutely, totally loved talking to you. This is going to be such an incredible podcast that's going to be out there. If somebody was, and I'm sure that there's going to be a ton of people, if somebody would desperately like to join your organization, how do they get hold of you?
I can't work with people in South Africa or other parts of the world. It's only in Montreal, Canada. So if you're in Montreal, Canada, you look up Maria Meriano. Everybody knows who I am in Canada.
Awesome. Maria, listen, thank you very, very much for spending this time. It's been a great privilege to talk to you. I've been totally blessed out of my socks, sitting here in your shadow, listening to you. So I really appreciate it. And I'm looking so forward to getting this out to the people. So thank you.
Thank you, Richard, for the opportunity. And God willing, I'll be back in South Africa again for the 3rd time. It has been one of my top 3 places in the world that I have visited. And I remember, I just want to share this with you, and I get emotional. The first time I landed in South Africa, I touched the soil. When we got off the plane, it wasn't in an airport. We walked out of the plane on the landing field, right? And I said to Mohammed, my husband, I said, I can feel it. He says, what? Our origins. Like there's something in the air, and I'm sharing this with you, and I can still feel it. It's like our answer. I don't know how to explain it to you, Richard. It's a magical place. It's a magical place.
You're making me go goosebumps again. That's the 2nd time you've done that to me today.
Beautiful place. So God willing, we will be there again. Love you guys.
Well, if you get here,
so much.
Come and chat to me.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Cheers.